just to hit reply on an email and to be in touch with us. So with no further ado, I'd love to introduce Shelly Galvin, who's going to be leading us through our webinar today. I had the great pleasure of meeting Shelly when she came to Costa Rica for a 3-day positive leadership course a few years ago now. So Shelly is a pioneer of modern corporate philanthropy. She's worked as a fundraiser and consultant globally with nonprofit organizations, NGOs, and social entrepreneurs. She's also worked on business development teams with small companies in Africa and the Middle East and competing for USAID project funding. So she's won project funds that are both large and small, ranging from a $5,000 campaign for local teachers who I think were working on diversity issues to a $300 million infrastructure project with USAID, and I think that was in the Gaza region. And more recently, Shelly helped NGO Drop in the Bucket win a $100,000 grant from Coca-Cola to aid South Sudanese refugees. I think this was the first grant of this type made by Coca-Cola. And Shelly was, she went on to earn a diploma in social innovation with the UP Center for Executive Education. And we were thrilled to have her back as one of our instructors. She currently facilitates our online course, which is a 4-week online course called Tackling Finance in the Social Sector. So Shelly, I just want to thank you ahead of time for volunteering your time today to share with us some insights on this very relevant topic. So over to you, Shelly. I'm going to stop sharing my screen so you can share your screen.
Wonderful.
And so, thank you.
Great. Good afternoon, everyone. Just a show of hands here. Can everyone hear me? Yeah, good, great. Good to see you, and so heartening to see people from so many places all around the world. So thank you so much for taking the time in your busy day to come and explore this really important topic with me, and just really appreciate it. So today we're here to talk about financial planning in times of uncertainty. And the first thing I want to start out with is, you know, at times, I'm sure it doesn't seem like it, but truly crisis is temporary. And we might feel the after effects of what's going on health-wise for a while, but it will end. And I just want to give everyone that message that we will get through this, we'll get through it together. And so, you know, we're here today to kind of look at how we do that. First thing I want to say is, please, friends, don't give up on fundraising. Fundraising is important right now more than ever. So today our agenda is that we're going to spend some time getting to know you and your experiences through some fun functions of Zoom, presupposing that those are all working nicely for us. And fortunately, I have Mohit here to support me, so that's a really lovely and heartening thing. We're going to shift into thinking about mindsets and primary focus of kind of my message to the world around fund development and resource development. And I'll give you some tips and tools and tricks and hacks, and then we'll move to the Q&A. So first of all, you know, I wanted to say that it is really a great honor to be here today representing UP's. The Executive Education Center had an impact on my life that at the time that I was a student there of Mohit's in that very first class, I had no idea what type of impact this would make on my career, but it's really just been one of the most impactful experiences that I've had in terms of education and connection with other change makers. So I just want to honor that this is such a thrill for me to be representing the center today. Real fast, I know that many of us are really getting great at using Zoom, but I would love to invite you to use the function of Zoom where you can rename yourself. So if you go to the participants little icon and click on that, you'll see the list of participants, and besides your own name, you can click on a little button that allows you to rename. And I've seen a lot of great people doing fun things with this. My dear friend Kaz, who's actually on the call today, pointed to this and a few other things that we'll be using today. But go ahead and rename yourself. Rename what type of, what your favorite color is, or how you're feeling today, or where you're from. Just have some fun with it. And also at the bottom of Zoom, we do have a space where we can put little reactions on the bottom line. So there's like a thumbs up, things like that. So feel free to use those icons as we move through this work, just to punctuate things that you're in agreement with or that you resonate with, or maybe not. So welcome aboard and thanks for joining us today. The first fun getting to know you activity we're going to do today is a poll with the help of Mohit. I would like to know what type of organization you're here to represent. Now, Mohit, are you going to launch that, or would you like me to? Oh, he got it. Wonderful. So you should all be seeing that poll coming up. We'll give it a little bit of time. All right, I think we're slowing down here. Everybody, quick, get your votes in.
Okay, I'm going to publish the poll results. End poll. And then share results.
Awesome.
Can you see the results?
I sure can. So,
great.
Really weighing heavy here on the nonprofit and NGO sector of things, but also we have representation across, for-profits, hybrids. I'm sure we have some educational professionals and social entrepreneurs here with us today. And the good news is that all of the content that we're talking about today really can resonate with each and every one of you in the sectors that you're working with. So let's see here, moving along. So right now I want to invite everyone to do breakout. We're going to try to do a little breakout session. And in that breakout session, I'm going to ask you to discuss with your core cohorts, what is your biggest challenge in terms of fund development during COVID? So we'll give you a few minutes as soon as we get you selected into these groups of about 4 to discuss amongst yourselves what your biggest challenge is right now during the time of the pandemic. And if you could elect one individual within that time that you're in the breakout group to come back and post your shared group results in the chat, that would be really valuable for us. So,
okay, and I'll just tell you what's going to happen now. We're going to have 12 breakout rooms with about 4 of you in each room. So it's going to give each person 1 minute to answer this question. So you'll find yourself in a room with 3 or 4 other people. Please put on your videos, unmute yourself so you can have this conversation. We'll give it just a few minutes and then we'll call you back into this larger room. So what's going to pop up on your screen is just this option to join a breakout room. Just hit join and it should go seamlessly. So I'm opening all rooms now, and please just join the room you've been assigned to.
okay. All right, everyone back, more or less? Let's see.
Sorry, quick question. How did that work out okay? Just give me a fist to 5. 5 worked out great. Yeah. Perfect.
Good, awesome. Yeah, so if we can just take a minute to put in the chat box, what your team came up with as your biggest challenge. And Mohit, if you could support me by kind of cherry picking some of the things that people are saying, that would be excellent. I know in my team, we talked about both of the women that were in my breakout room were teachers. And so they had remarked that it's just really hard to be home, and it's hard to provide that psychological safety for our kids, and just make them not be afraid of what's going on. So that was just really beautiful insight. I see. Saturation and fundraising all at once, and organizations struggling to segment their audiences. Yeah, Kaz, for sure. Yeah, balancing. Brenna, after this call, we'll be able to share some of the reflections in this chat to hear more about what other people's challenges have been. And also, you know, one of the beautiful things that's really a part and parcel of UPeace is that we work really intently to create a community of practice. So I really encourage you all to connect with each other after this, especially those who have shared challenges or who have had success in handling these challenges, and just creating your community of practice to help you help everyone else and have everyone else help you to navigate it. Now, of course, we're here today because of the challenge of trying to make money through your computer and how we fundraise together in these times of uncertainty. So I'd like to move forward to talking about the mindset and primary focus of the work that I do in the world. Everything is about relationships. Everything is about relationships, and fundraising most certainly is all about relationships. The number of face-to-face connections that you make is the key predictor of your success. Again, the number of face-to-face connections that you make is the key predictor of your success. And to really bang that out, we'll do it one more time. The number of face-to-face connections that you make is the key predictor of your success. Hands down, if you took away any lesson today, that is really your key performance indicator of your work as a fundraiser. So how, right now in this time, how do we do that? It's all about creating and curating our virtual relationships now. We want to work on making those relationship building opportunities innovative and fun and engaging. We want to reach out to people in ways that maybe we hadn't before. We want to call and check in with them. We want to have personal and authentic connections, more so, with more depth than what we had before. We've been doing a lot of work in my office and amongst my community of practice to have virtual coffees. So much fun to just hook up with somebody. My friend Louise, who's on this call, a great colleague of mine, and I had a virtual coffee just the other weekend, and it was really fantastic. One of the big things that's been coming out of this is how do we hold virtual events? Our nonprofits here in the States often have all of their gala events and big fundraising events in the springtime, and now we can't do that. So that leaves a really big hole. So we're really looking at how to innovate ways to have virtual events that are engaging, that are fun. There's a lot of resources out there about that. Really getting good at social media and messaging, and that means really leaning into storytelling, but not just that, really leaning into deep listening. The way that our brain works when it has a stimulus, something major that happens in the world, is that we can either be triggered into a place of fear or we can be triggered into a place of empathy. Now, when our brains get triggered into fear, then our compulsion is to be very selfish. So we've seen that in the US around toilet paper. Everyone's talking about the toilet paper hoarding. The way to combat that is when you have that stimulus and you give an opportunity to have empathy and give somebody something to do with that energy, some way to help, then we could really make the differences that we need to make in the world today. We can really build the relationships that we need to build to make the change. I know that every single one of you is facing a lot of tough choices. We had plan A, we had plan B, now we have plan C, and it's all about making tough choices. I'm going to do something fun right now that I learned from Kaz, who's on the call, and it's called a chatterfall or a chat waterfall. And essentially, I would just love to ask you one question, and I want you to type it into your response into the chat box, but wait until I say go before you press enter. So really, what's the toughest choice that you're facing right now? Or what's a tough choice or tough decision that you're facing amongst the pandemic? Give you a second to type that into the box. Another couple seconds. Let's see, let's have some, is everyone feeling good? All right, some people are jumping the gun. So go ahead and press enter and we'll just watch all these things. Uncertainty, staying at home or going out. Everyone needs money. Helping grantees to survive. Thank you for that. Developing online material, very tough, especially in the education system, right? Faith and fear, staying safe. Working on your own personal safety and time management. Letting collaborators go, that's really tough. Really tough. Thank you so much for sharing this. Hostility from your bosses and colleagues. You know, stress really sometimes can bring the best out in people and sometimes it can bring the worst. You're having your family so far away. I agree with that one. Just starting a major gift program. Oh, yeah, you hear that one. Well, let's see here. Thank you guys. Thanks for your really heartfelt reflections. The thing that we're really trying to work on right now is a mitigation strategy, right? So how do we plan for the changes that are happening to the scope of our work every single day? We have just people staying at home, not being able to work with your clients directly, which is really, really hard, a lack of funding, all these myriad issues that are coming up for all of us. The way that we can hack making this process so difficult is to really align all of the choices that we're making to mission fit. How does this decision fit within our values and our goals and our intention within our organization? Stay true to what that looks like for you. That's really important. Our values are the foundation of where our houses are built. So your organization is built on a foundation of values. So now I'd love to share a planning tool with you. If everyone can give me like a little reaction, thumbs up or thumbs down. How many of you have used Lean Canvas before? Yeah, we had some folks out there. So, you know, to be able to give Lean Canvas the amount of attention that it requires to really teach it, it would take many, many webinars. So please, we'll send you some resources to learn more about it moving forward, but this is a quick overview. So the Lean Canvas is the brainchild of Ash Moria. It's a one-page business plan template that helps you deconstruct your idea into its key assumptions using 9 basic building blocks. Unlike a business plan that takes a long time to write and that nobody hardly ever reads, a Lean Canvas is designed to help you create a quick snapshot of your idea, program, funding opportunity, and share it with somebody, perhaps a funder or your team member, and get their feedback and refine that iteratively. So this is what it looks like. There's a method to the madness about how you move through a Lean Canvas. And again, these slides will be shared with you afterwards, so you'll be able to lean into kind of what this looks like on your own time. But we start with the problem. And the problem is what your work is focused on as an organization. We move over to customer segments, and we'd like to make 2 Lean Canvases with nonprofit work. So one would be for the client, the end user, the beneficiary of your services. The other canvas would be for your donors or investors. So I'm kind of using some of the same blocks in each one, but the way that you go about defining your customer segments, et cetera, and your channels and your key metrics is a little bit different based on who you're talking to. So you move from problem to customer segments. You move over to your unique value proposition, which is that single, clear, compelling message that draws someone in. Then, fourth, you talk about your solution, and you move into what your unfair advantage is. Now, some of us don't know what that is yet, but it can be something like, if you have a really strong board, a really great fundraising for Facebook, their unfair advantage was their social network. And when they first started, they didn't even have that yet. So it's something that can be, in development. Revenue streams are our sources of revenue. Cost structure are fixed and variable costs, our key metrics, and the channels that we get to our clients and also to our donors. So we can use something like this to help us reforecast our annual budget amidst all these different changes. So we can use it to kind of plan out how we might change a program, how we might create a new program based on different things that we're seeing happening amongst our people. And then we can use it with our team to kind of brainstorm around how to best move forward. One place I want to focus on, excuse me, is this customer segment area. So when we're talking in terms of fundraising about who our customer segments are, we're thinking about a diversified funding stream. This is really important. We want to look at how we're bringing in income to the organization from government grants, from individual donors who are segmented, from businesses, foundations, earned income, and even loans, like the loans that we're using for property that we're renting, or some kind of capital or equity that we've gotten to start up our hybrid business or a social enterprise. And key metrics, the key metrics that tell us how we're doing, we need to really lean in right now in times of emergency and struggle and measure and monitor those in real time so we know what effect that's going to have on our organization financially. So the KPIs that we want to really think about right now are how many people can we serve today versus last month, today versus last year, today versus your projections that you had pre-COVID for April. What are your daily losses? What are your donation averages? What kind of debt do you have and can you predict in the future? How many rejections have you had? How many, like we mentioned before, contacts with donors and new leads are you bringing in? Again, your face-to-face connections are really going to be a key predictor of your success. And you want to test those assumptions immediately. So how might you do that? Well, this is important. This is one of the bread and butter things that I teach everybody that I work with in terms of fundraising. When you ask for money, you get advice. But when you ask for advice, you get money. Hands down, best piece of advice that I could ever give anyone is that if you can take this lean canvas and bring it to a potential donor and say, hey, can you give me advice in how to attain more donors, how to get more funding? What do you think about how we're messaging for this? What do you think about these different channels? You have a supporter that's going to be able to evangelize your work and recruit other supporters for you. I have this little picture here from the musician Pitbull, who has a song that says, ask for money, get advice, ask for advice, get money twice. So true. So you just take this lean canvas, you work it through, and you shop it and use it as something to talk to your potential donors. I always say I would much rather look at something like this than some sort of glossy, expensive, very long business plan or folder full of items. I want to help give advice because that does something psychologically that recruits me and endears me to you. So how do you even get to the point of asking for that advice? Stewardship. Stewardship is the art of building and maintaining and keeping relationships. So we're talking here about storytelling, but also story listening. We want to tell the story of the good work that we're doing. We want to tell the story of the good work that we have done. We want to tell the story about the things that the funders have done for your organization. But also, we want to do story listening. We want to listen to what our funders are going through right now. Just like we want to share the hardship of how it is on us, we should want to listen to them and what their experiences are. And we should listen to how our team is managing. I heard someone reflect about how their team was working together in the chat. Nothing is more powerful to motivate a team than recognition. And being able to share, even with our potential donors or investors, how our team is managing is really important. Giving attention to having a strong team and a well-working team right now is really important. So how do we do virtual stewardship? We're going to reach out to our donors or investors through phone calls, through emails, through Instagram Live or Instagram TV, Facebook Live, YouTube, video calls, all kinds of different ways. And I just want to do a poll with you guys now. And if Mohit could get that rip rare and ready to go, what is your preferred method to reach out to donors or investors?
Yeah, I just launched the poll. Are you seeing it?
Not yet.
Not seeing it. Okay, so I'm going to relaunch the poll. We
there
ran
it is.
into this. You got it?
Yeah. Yep. All right. Oh.
No?
No.
Okay, tell me if you're seeing it now.
Yay, good. Okay, good.
Okay.
We're going to get really good at this, Mohit.
Yeah, it's like the ask for advice, and then if you launch it twice, it works.
So true. I know, like Mohit's gonna be like his secondary or tertiary career could be Zoom call support at this point, I think.
I like it.
Okay, looking good. It's like I want to like sing the Jeopardy music, like the do 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 do.
Okay, there's some who are abstaining. Maybe we should have put an other there, but I've got 35 out of 52 votes. So I'm going to
let's haul it in.
Yeah, I'm going to end and share results.
Sounds good. So right now we have phone calls and emails are the winners, and I really appreciate that. You know, I always tell folks, students and colleagues and clients when I'm working with them, you know, if you can't have face-to-face, then those phone calls are really, really important. So I see you emailers, but I want to kind of ask you to up your game and really reach out and touch somebody, grab that telephone and have that personal connection. As a funder now at CBT Nuggets, it's really easy for me to say no via an email or to miss an email. But if I get a personal phone call, even if I can't help that organization or that individual, I'm more apt to think of other people or other organizations that could support them, and to think, you know, to be a little bit more caring and take a little bit more time and attention because of that one-to-one contact. Even better is something like a video call where, you know, if you're kind of, if you have a donor that you see very often as a volunteer, that video call could really reignite a good relationship with them. It's super fun to do video calls. You can do them for 20 minutes. They can be really quick. So I'd really encourage that. And then I've seen good work with the social media, a lot of video messages from teams just saying, hey, we're okay, we're here, this is what we're doing, we miss you. Those things are really great assets at that time. And because many of us have cell phones that we can make video, fortunately, that has become something that we can use a little bit more.
So Shelly, just stringing together a couple of ideas you've presented. So it might be that you reach out to a funder via short email saying, hey, I'd love some advice on something that I'd like to run by you, given, you know, the tough times have shifted our plan. So that would then lead to that video or phone call, right? Is that?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, but I would also say, you know, if you have a relationship with a donor already, that calling really is something that it comes as a surprise, but we're all really enjoying having those phone calls right now because we really get inundated with emails and there's a lot of things to sift through. So, you know, I would just challenge people to have the courage to like reach out and have that phone call and build the relationship there. Or of course, sending an email and say, hey, do you want to do a video call? I want to run some things by you and ask for your advice. That would be really great. I think giving someone something to do when they're sitting at home and some sort of project to bite into is really an important thing and a great thing for our mental health, to be able to feel like we can control something and, you know, have be a part of the solution.
Great, thank you.
Yeah.
And I think it also re-emphasizes the point at these times where everyone is, you know, struggling with the uncertainty and the change, to be able to actually advise and help somebody else has a very calming effect on one's own uncertainty. So maybe playing to that knowledge. Yeah,
absolutely. And thank you for that. Yeah, absolutely. And it just feels good. So where could we start with that? And I've got 10 strategies laid out here for you. Call your current individual funders now and check in. And hey, listen, if you've got funders that are funding you, you know, on a monthly donation and they can't make that monthly donation, please don't kick them off of your mailing list and please don't stop connecting with them. We want to keep that relationship really fresh and connected because this will be over. The crisis is not permanent, it is impermanent. So just make sure you keep connecting, and instead of saying, okay, let's cancel your membership, something that a term that I heard was, let's give your recurring donation a vacation, a recurring donation vacation. which I loved. Just great languaging there. Call your current foundations and business funders now and check in. There's a lot of different things happening. Programs are ending, new programs are starting. I was on the phone today with our local community foundation, and they were telling me about the immense amount of growth that they've had in emergency funds for donor advised funds. So a lot of businesses have changed, and foundations and funders have changed their agenda to really make a lot of funding available. Some of them have had to step back, but we need to call them and kind of get the gist on what that is. Some of them also have great stuff on their website about what their funding priorities are right now. But when I say now, and I underline it with a big line, it's important because there's a certain amount of money, and that amount of money is not going to continue forever. So it's important that you get in line and start to ask for those funds right away. Also, researching government assistance. So some of us are having to deal with laying off staff. Some of us are having to work a lot less with our clients. Our clients are really struggling a lot more and need a lot more support. We might need to really think about what type of assistance is available to us because of less salary or whatever. So research whatever government assistance you have. I know here in the States, we have a lot of programs that are coming out. Again, it has a balloon effect. There's a lot of money there right now. As soon as you can get on the list for receiving those funds or even getting your application in, the better. Research foundation and business funders that, again, have special emergency programs. I was on a webinar from Stanford Social Innovation Review yesterday, and they had the Gates Foundation, other big global funders that all had opened up some really amazing special emergency programs. So go ahead and do your research and see what's available and what's available right now. 5, research new foundations that fund organizations like you. This is like looking at organizations that are like you and doing things that like what you do in the field and seeing who their donors are. So I was working with a partner just this week, and he said, oh, this organization does just what we do, but they're a little bit more grown up, and their profile of funders is listed on their website. And I would really like to have all those funders funding me. And so it was, my advice was, well, why don't you just reach out and connect with them and see, what availability there is to get that funding. So go ahead and do that research. 6, connect with your community of practice and other organizations in your sector and learn and share. This is really, really important. We can all give each other advice and hear what other organizations are doing and what types of things are working for them. Also, what I've seen a lot in my own community is some organizations get donations of volume of in-kind items that they couldn't use within their organization, and they're able to kind of shift those resources to the other organizations within their sector. For example, our local domestic violence shelter got a huge donation of Easter items from World Market because they're closed during this time, and they didn't have enough kids for all of these to go to. So they worked with some other organizations in our area to disseminate candy and Easter eggs and just all the interesting things that we Americans do to celebrate Easter. 7, create opportunities for those who cannot give financially to provide skills, access to social network by providing shareable content and in-kind donations, like I mentioned. So what do I mean when I say providing shareable content? If you have a funder who really, really loves you, or an investor or client that really, really loves you, but they can't give you any money right now, what they can give you access to is their awesome social network. And a really great way that I've seen this done by organizations like Charity Water is that they create a bunch of content and then just have content that they can share with people and say, hey, can you share this Instagram post on Monday morning at 10? Can you share the next one on Friday at 11? And just be able to give them a strategy for how to share that information and get your word out. Especially, this works really well with on LinkedIn and Twitter and Facebook and Instagram alike with videos that share updates and that share the needs that your organization might have at any given time. 8, contact lenders and investors to negotiate better terms. So many people can't pay the rent of their offices right now. A lot of our social entrepreneurs or entrepreneurs at large are having to face tough questions around how to meet the percentages that they're supposed to give back to their investors at this point. Everybody knows that this is a big struggle, and so all of our funders are really thinking about ways to make the experience better and ease all of the pain and the strain and the hardship that our organizations are having. Don't be afraid to call and see what you can negotiate. Caveat, this is also true, you know, when there isn't time of hardship, you can call and negotiate these terms with them anytime as change makers, but right now more than ever, you'll have a listening ear. 9, ask your funders for leads and introductions. Listen, we all know each other. All the funders know each other and we all talk. If a funder doesn't have a position where they're able to fund you right now, they know all the other funders in the network, or at least a substantial amount of them. And they're happy to share with you who might fund the projects that you have going on, or who might be a good avenue to look at for advice. Really, really good practice there. And 10, ask your current donors and board members for leads and introduction. Our board members are our biggest asset right now because they can think through how you might be able to find better leads. Now, I always tell people when I'm training them around fundraising to really rely on board members for leads every single month. I often put a level like, hey, can you, every single board member, bring 3 leads of people that we could go ask for funds or resource donations. And right now, more than ever, it's something that people can do, again, to satisfy that part of our brain where we feel like we're having control of a situation by providing some sort of help or support to the organizations and causes that we love most. And finally, please love and recognize your team and stay connected with them. Really, really important to be grateful for all the assets and resources that we have and share with each other and celebrate that we're making it through every single day. So just about to wrap it up and get to the Q&A part. But if you have really enjoyed this information, I would really recommend checking out my course at UP's Tackling Finance in the Social Sector. We go over all of these different tools in greater depth, and the University for Peace Center for Executive Education at large is such an impactful and important place to go. And I think I really highly recommend it beyond measure. So check out our course. We'll have a link to that. We'd really love to see any and all of you there in the future. And we're kicking off here in the next couple of weeks on the 20th of April. So now we'll move it into some Q&A. Thanks for hanging in there, guys. Let's see.
I've got one for you, mate.
Hi.
So nice to see you, and thanks for such a great presentation. My question is, a lot of the organizations I'm working with are struggling to figure out where their donors are in terms of, are they super pressured and definitely can't give, and would they be putting extra pressure on them, and like how to figure that out from a data perspective. So my advice was obviously to ask and respect their choice, but how do you figure out how to segment your donors when so much different stuff is going on right now?
Yeah, you know, this is a great question, and I don't really ever, let me change this. Oh, there you are. Okay. I don't ever recommend that organizations segment their donors by the amount of money that they're able to give, but rather what their persona is and what type of person they are. So, you know, in a lot of organizations, you have people that are really thorough volunteers that would be mortified to be thought of as a major donor. The number one thing that we can do at all times is to lead with heart. And every person knows that they're getting asked these types of questions. we don't really ever have to talk about money with our donors, but what we can do is ask for advice and say, hey, the organization is really, really struggling right now. We're looking for donors that are available. This is a tough conversation for us to have, and we want to be more than sensitive because we don't want to lose these relationships that are really the foundation of the good work that we do. Can you offer me advice? And that gives that individual an option to both give you advice about where to go and then to self-select if that's an opportunity that's available to them. That's my favorite way of going about that, you know, every day, but especially right now. So good to see you. Anyone else?
Hi.
Hi, is that Greenie?
Yes. Thank you very much for your presentation. It has been very useful for me. I would like to ask you, what can you recommend for a new organization that is starting, that is in the first phase in the process to start to find fundraising?
Yeah, so I mean, the first place to go is to take all of your supporters that you have in place right now and really start brainstorming about different ways that you could approach this and looking to generate those leads. So if you were starting a new business and trying to operate from a sales position, you kind of sit down and have that like war room and think about like who could we include, who could we ask, where could we go? Secondary to that is doing research and really looking at organizations that do the same type of work that you do or similar work and how they're getting funded, and even reaching out to them and asking for some advice and making a kinship there. There is plenty of resources in the world for all of us to share. That's a misnomer to think that we have to be in competition for things. Really just kind of creating this community of practice and asking for support and help is the gold standard way of being able to access that type of funding. And always just keep talking about the work that you're doing. Mohit shares a story about his brother starting Shazam and how he would go to parties and, you know, just talk about his product all the time. Now, this is an app that you use when you hear a song and you want to know what it is. And so when he was first getting started, he just talked about it everywhere. So you know, he'd show up to a party and say, hey, have you guys ever had that feeling where like you heard the song, you wanted to know what it was? Being able to connect with people in your social media space around like, hey, this is who we are, this is what we're doing. Do you have any advice for us? Is a really good way to do that.
Okay, thank you.
You bet. Thank you for joining us. Next victim. Any other questions?
I've got one more for you.
Okay, good girl. Thank you.
How would you go about dealing with the kind of fundamental mindset shift of board members to not just turn into a kind of protective funding space?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, boards require a lot of intentional development, and if you really shift what their role is around, you know, doing that strategy, but putting a lot of faith into the executive director for the strategic leadership, and then shifting a lot of the work that your board is doing to trying to brainstorm and think about leads and think about who else, how you could expand the network is really, really important. But just checking in a lot and having a lot of conversations and keeping them involved, you know, showing them the lean canvas and prototyping and playing and sandboxing that experience with them and saying, hey, this is what we think we want to do. What do you think about that? Can you give us advice? Again, always shifting back to that, hey, can you give me advice about how I could? You know, you notice something that's kind of going sideways, instead of saying, you know, you're doing this to me, I don't like that, I don't want to go in that direction. Rather, you know, shifting sideways and saying, hey, I need advice for how we could shift and do this a little bit, differently.
Kelly, sorry, is anyone, any other pressing questions? We have a couple of minutes left. And Shelly, if you don't mind, can I share a quick story?
Yes. So,
yesterday we went over this presentation together, and then I tried it today. So in my case, I was talking, we have university groups that come every year, and I said, I wanted to reconnect with someone who's leading one of these university groups. And instead of going at it as, will you come back next year? I went at it from an advice point of view, that this is how we work with universities, and we're losing all these groups, and we're now moving some of the content online. And they said, Mohit, before we talk about online and Zoom and things, we are planning for summer 2021 instead of December 2020 because we know of this. So it's the idea that it was very interesting. I think at a psychological level, people want to help, and I think they don't, especially at a time like this, they don't want to be pitched or sold, right? And so it's a little counterintuitive also for me. I've always been told it's better to be direct, and I appreciate directness. And but I also think that asking for advice, you can be completely genuine. You do need the advice, but it also begs the question, how can you help me? And so it works with funders, but it also works with clients. And I know a number of you working in this space have revenue generation. So you have clients and you have donors. And I would say all of what you shared with us, Shelly, today, just works across the board. And I'm going to try it with my wife later on also. I think it's
right?
it's just very, very good psychology. And,
yeah, that's it. That's exactly. I prototype everything on my relationship. So, when I first met my husband, I asked him to help me hang a pair of curtains in my apartment. And I was like, that's how I got him on the hook, asked for some help. And now I can't get rid of him, but it's great. And there's a lot of power dynamic, right, that goes along with money. And it's something that we're just not great at as a race just yet. But if we don't give the money so much power, but rather the momentum and the ability to move something forward that money is just a part of, I think it makes it easier for all of us to have that conversation. And if you can take away anything, I think that's probably something I would love for you to take away.
Fantastic. I just want to reiterate my thanks to, firstly, all of you for taking valuable time to join. I hope it was valuable. We will follow up and share with you the recording, the slides, and then Shelly has very kindly also offered to make available a few links. So some of the concepts that she mentioned, there's more materials there. And then certainly an invitation to continue to stay in touch, and relationships are built over time. And so for many of you, this was our first time interacting. We'd love to continue this relationship. We'll have one more webinar in this series coming up soon, and we'll announce that. So thanks, everyone. Please stay safe and healthy, and be in touch. And Shelly, thank you so much for sharing the gift of your knowledge, wisdom, and time today.
My absolute pleasure. Thank you. Thank you, everyone.